I have a really weird way of how I kind of got into this position. So I originally went to Texas A&M and was really kind of fascinated by biochemistry. I thought that small tweaks to molecules and they can have a big impact on like what proteins they interact with, what proteins they don't interact with, how you can use small tweaks on molecules to study different proteins, which is what I spend most of my time at A&M doing. Graduated, went to the real world, worked for a little bit actually in oil and polyurethane chemistry, which was like, this is just not at all what I like. And but I had a huge realization that year and a half break from like undergrad before I decided to go to grad school was very profound. Because during that 1 year and a half, I got to spend a lot of time sitting in traffic. I would do like an hour on the way to work, an hour back. And that just really made me realize how much I hate sitting in traffic. I could literally feel myself aging sitting in traffic. And, I'm like 22, 23, and I'm like, no, I'm like aging just sitting here, It was so depressing that it made me realize that if I always want to do chemistry or like any kind of chemical work, you always have to go to the lab, right? Like I can't bring, 100-pound drum of a chemical home and have all these chemicals. And you need like the infrastructure, the fume hood, all these chemicals and whatnot. And what I really also missed while I was working as a polyurethane chemist was you can't be creative. And I didn't know how important that was to me. I kind of took that for granted until I started working. And I was like, oh, like I did all this because it was a creative outlet for me. I didn't realize it at the time because I was just having fun. I got my PhD under Eric Anslin and Andy Ellington. Eric Anslin is a physical organic chemist, while Andy Ellington is a synthetic biologist. And I meet some students in his lab, and they are in the middle of trying to build a convolutional neural network for proteins. And I find it super, super interesting. And I was like, wait, what you mean? And then they're like, yeah, we want to mutate proteins with these new like convolutional neural networks, state of the art in computer vision. We saw there was a publication at the time that showed that you can apply computer vision algorithms to start learning like the wild type amino acid in a protein. And then their initial hypothesis was, could we use this not only to learn the wild type, but to identify when to mutate the wild type? And so they were building this V1 model. I started helping them as well, however way I can. These are like 4th year, 5th year students. I was the 1st year at the time. But the more I like got into the code with them and started kind of like playing with it and just like connecting with them, the more I realized it's like, well, why'd you make this decision here? Why'd you make that decision there? Why are you doing it this way? And I realized that they just had so much of the chemistry wrong, or they weren't taking into account how the chemistry really worked. And that's when I was like, wait, I have the proper background for all this, right? So it's just like complementary skills. So that's kind of when I realized I can kind of help take this to the next level, and decided to join that lab and started working full-fledged on developing machine learning algorithms for protein engineering.